The Great Cataclysm of the Divine Realm brought Huo Yuhao 10,000 years ago by the turbulent flow of time and space. The plot of Douluo Yi has just begun. At this moment, Xiaowu had just taken shape and was only 6 years old. Tang San is only at level 10 and has not yet become a divine king. Huo Yuhao. Tang San, I'm sorry. This divine king position belongs to me now. Keywords of the novel. When Huo Yuhao travels through Douluo without a pop-up window, when Huo Yuhao travels through Douluo, download the complete TXT collection. When Huo Yuhao travels through Douluo, read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Crossing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Crossing. Wu Tong, don't do it. Ha. Huo Yuhao anxiously opened his eyes, only to see a strange environment. The Great Cataclysm of the Divine Realm, the turbulent flow of time and space engulfed the Divine Realm. Huo Yuhao watched helplessly as Tang Wudong was swept away, but he was powerless. As soon as my eyes closed and opened, I arrived at this unfamiliar place. This is a small wooden house, with 4 children aged 5 or 6 standing together, and at the front is a handsome young man of the sword eyebrow star order. Huo Yuhao felt that his gaze was not at the right height, as if he had become shorter. Raising his hand, a pair of tender palms came into view. Huo Yuhao's pupils shrank, and a strange thought flooded into his mind. I was reborn back to my childhood. Since I have been reborn, has Wu Tong also been reborn? Huo Yuhao couldn't help but think. Don't make any noise, everyone be quiet. The handsome young man said calmly, children, stand in a row. Huo Yuhao followed the other children in a row, but a hint of doubt appeared in his eyes. Why doesn't he remember seeing this young man when he was a child? My name is Su Yuntao, a level 26 soul master, and I am your guide. Now, I will awaken your martial souls one by one. Remember, no matter what happens, don't be afraid. The young man said with a smile on his face. Martial soul awakening. Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao became even more puzzled. When he was 6 years old, his martial soul awakened, wasn't it in the Duke's mansion? How did you get to such a small wooden house? Also, who is Su Yuntao? Huo Yuhao was very unfamiliar with this name, and his eyes kept looking at Su Yuntao. Suddenly, Huo Yuhao noticed a fist-sized soul character in the center of Su Yuntao's chest. As if a lightning bolt flashed through Huo Yuhao's mind, his eyes widened in an instant, filled with disbelief. Martial Soul Hall. This is the standard outfit for the disappeared Martial Soul Hall for thousands of years. When Huo Yuhao was reading history books, he had seen this mark before and had some impressions of it. When he truly saw this mark, he naturally recalled it. Huo Yuhao's eyes were filled with shock and confusion at this moment. Was he not reborn, but traveled back at least 10,000 years? The turbulence of time and space has brought him back thousands of years ago. So what about Wu Tong and Tian Menggu? Have you also come to this era? Just as Huo Yuhao was lost in thought, Su Yuntao was also prepared and called the first child to the middle of the formation. He said in a gentle voice, don't be afraid, close your eyes and feel it carefully. Immediately afterwards, Su Yuntao whispered, solitary wolf, possessed. Su Yuntao's body immediately swelled, his whole body filled with muscle sensations, his eyes green, and his 10 fingers pointed out sharp claws shimmering with cold light. 2 soul rings rose from his feet, 1 white and 1 yellow. Except for Huo Yuhao, all the other children were so scared that they screamed, and the child in the middle of the formation was so scared that he was about to run away. Su Yuntao grabbed the child and said, don't move. Don't be afraid when you say it. This is my martial soul solo wolf. If you can become a soul master in the future, you will also use this ability. Under Su Yuntao's comfort, the child eventually obediently closed his eyes. Extend your right hand. Su Yuntao said in a deep voice. The child obediently extended his right hand, and suddenly, a spot of light emerged from his palm. In an instant, a hoe appeared in his palm. Su Yuntao shook his head and said, "The whole martial soul is a tool martial soul, but it's difficult to use it as a weapon to fight. Forget it, let's see if you have soul power first. If you have soul power, you can also become a soul master." Speaking, Su Yuntao took out a blue crystal ball and gestured for him to place his right hand on it. The child's tender little hand was placed on the crystal ball, and after a moment, there was still no movement. Su Yuntao said somewhat disappointed, "Without soul power, you cannot become a soul master. Let's stand aside first." Afterwards, Su Yuntao conducted a martial soul awakening for the other 3 children. Huo Yuhao is the last one. He had been watching Su Yuntao's actions all along, and a doubt arose in his heart. The book says that the martial soul hall is evil, causing wars to sweep across the continent and indiscriminately slaughtering soul beasts. However, in my opinion, the personnel of this martial soul hall are clearly very good. Not only does it awaken martial souls for children without a background, but it is also so patient that even in my era, many soul masters are extremely proud and do not even consider ordinary people. Can it be that I traveled back to the initial period of the martial soul hall, when it was still a law-abiding force? As Huo Yuhao was stunned, Su Yuntao smiled faintly and waved at him, saying, "Little one, come here. After awakening, I have to go to the next village. Yesterday, I awakened a child with innate soul power, but unfortunately it was the blue-silver grass martial soul. I don't know if there can be a few more children with soul power." Su Yuntao's words behind him were more like talking to himself, and Huo Yuhao didn't pay much attention and walked over. Standing in the middle of the formation, Huo Yuhao's mood was very calm. He is already a divine man, and the awakening of his martial soul is nothing surprising to him. It's just that I'm not used to having Tianmeng by my side. Huo Yuhao murmured softly and then closed his eyes. A little light appeared around his eyes, and Huo Yuhao felt incredibly cool and comfortable. He couldn't help but say to himself, "Here, my spiritual eyes and martial soul have come." Ha! What kind of martial soul is this? I martial soul. Su Yuntao's voice rang out. Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao opened his eyes. Su Yuntao looked at Huo Yuhao in surprise and smiled, saying, "Little one, you really surprised me. I have never seen such a unique martial soul before. But then again, what can the I martial soul do? Do you have perspective ability?" Huo Yuhao. Su Yuntao chuckled and said, "You're joking, don't mind. Now let me test your soul power." Huo Yuhao placed his hand on the blue crystal ball, which emitted a faint light. Su Yuntao nodded and said, "It's okay. The innate soul power is at level 1, not very high, but at least it can be cultivated." When Huo Yuhao heard that his innate soul power was at level 1, he was not disappointed because he was originally at level 1. But this did not affect his achievement of the throne in his 20s. As Huo Yuhao stepped out of the formation, a familiar voice suddenly rang out in his mind. "Ha ha ha, I'm not dead, I'm still the million-year-old soul beast that punches Emperor Tian and kicks Xiong Jun. Ha! Where is this? How did I become 2? This place is so familiar. Xiao Yuhao, why are you so small? Was this your childhood? No. You're so young, do you still recognize me?" End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Heavenly Dreams and Elder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Heavenly Dreams and Elder, Heavenly Dream Brother. Have you also been reborn? Upon hearing the voice of Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, Huo Yuhao was suddenly pleasantly surprised. When he was 6 years old and reborn, surrounded by a strange environment, Huo Yuhao was still somewhat helpless. At this moment, the appearance of Tianmeng Gu undoubtedly brought great confidence to Huo Yuhao. In his past life, Huo Yuhao was able to overcome obstacles and climb the throne in his 20s, thanks to the help of Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. It can be said that the starting point of Huo Yuhao's cheat is Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. Without Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, there would be no ordinary Huo Yuhao cheating. Great. Yuhao, do you still remember me, brother? Tianmeng Ice Silkworm exclaimed excitedly, although you have become so young, I won't dislike you. We two brothers can start all over again. We are both reborn with memories, and the road will definitely be easier than in our previous lives. Upon hearing the voice of the Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm, Huo Yuhao sighed and said, Heavenly Dream Brother, we may not be as simple as rebirth. This is at least 10,000 years ago, when the martial soul hall still existed. At least 10,000 years ago. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's big eyes widened even wider. How could we wear this era? Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, then you have to ask about the turbulence of time and space. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. Well, let's just forget about it. After a moment, Tianmeng Ice Silkworm shook her head and said, unfortunately, only the two of us have traveled through time. I don't know how the Ice Emperor and the Snow Emperor are, and your Tang Wudong. If the Ice and Snow Emperors haven't traveled through time, at least they still exist 10,000 years ago. If your Tang Wudong hasn't traveled through time, you will have to wait 10,000 years before you can see her. Speaking of which, your parents-in-law don't know if it's before or after this era. If they suddenly hiccup, wouldn't your wife be gone? Huo Yuhao's mouth twitched at the words and said, Tianmeng, my mood is already quite bad. Can you stop hitting me? Tianmeng Bingchan smiled and then said solemnly, Yuhao, I actually wanted to say it before, but I'm a bit afraid. Now that I've traveled back 10,000 years, I can finally talk to you. After a pause, Tianmeng Ice Silkworm continued, Yuhao, tell me, do you really love Tang Wudong? Huo Yuhao said strangely, of course, Wu Tong is my lover, and of course I love her. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm asked, do you really love Wang Donger or Tang Wudong? Isn't Donger just a dancing tree? Huo Yuhao said inexplicably. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm shook her head and said, Wang Donger is willing to sacrifice her own life for you. What about Tang Wudong? The personality consciousness Tang Wudong developed from the two people who love you the most, Wang Donger and Wang Qiuer. Surprisingly, Tang Wudong refused to even touch you and obediently obeyed her father, causing you to be beaten to death by your father. Law in the end. Does she really love you? Is she still the Wang Donger you love? Huo Yuhao couldn't help but remain silent. Upon careful consideration, it seemed that this was indeed the case. Since Wang Donger became Tang Wudong, she has suddenly become less close to him. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm saw Huo Yuhao not speaking and asked, also, Yuhao, you think you are a devoted person, but in fact, you like three people. If you don't believe me, tell me, who do you really like? Tang Wudong, Wang Donger, or Wang Qiuer? Huo Yuhao subconsciously said, of course, what I like is dance. Suddenly remembering the words of Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, Huo Yuhao shook a little and said, winter. Before the words, Donger, could be finished, Huo Yuhao remembered Wang Qiuer again. He owed Wang Qiuer a lot and actually liked her. So he finally spoke up, autumn. The name Qiuer was not finished because Huo Yuhao remembered Tang Wudong again. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm burst out laughing and said, Rain Hao, who is dancing in winter and autumn. Huo Yuhao was speechless for a moment and let out a bitter smile. Brother Tianmeng, you are so accurate in judging people. In his past life, he didn't think so much. He thought that since Tang Wudong was Wang Donger, he should like Tang Wudong as if he liked Wang Donger, but in fact, he wasn't. Tang Wudong has already become a brand new personality. Whether in terms of personality or attitude towards him, Tang Wudong is not the beloved Wang Donger. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm transformed into a hand and patted Huo Yuhao's shoulder, saying, so, Yuhao, there's no need to be sad without Tang Wudong. There were beautiful women 10,000 years ago, but we are men who can become gods. Are you afraid that no girl will like us? Huo Yuhao remained silent, and his thoughts couldn't change for a moment. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm said again, also, you have finally escaped your father-in-law's clutches. I dare not say much before. His control is too strong, and you almost got killed by him. If we were before him now, you must have become a god earlier than him. Haha. Occupy his throne and make you a divine king, then he won't dare to ravage you like that again. Huo Yuhao smiled bitterly and said, Tianmeng, actually I think it's okay. After all, my father-in-law is also here to help me grow better. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm sneered and said, I, the Ice Emperor, and Ilao are also doing it for you, but have we ever ravaged you? Huo Yuhao. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm also knew that Huo Yuhao was kind-hearted and wouldn't maliciously speculate about others. However, she didn't want to change Huo Yuhao's thoughts for once. Instead, she said, unfortunately, it's 10,000 years ago now, and Ilao is definitely not here. Just as he finished speaking, there was a thunderbolt in the clear sky, and a huge and breathless pressure descended from the sky. A gray airflow suddenly emerged from a certain space and flew towards Huo Yuhao without stopping. In almost the blink of an eye, it penetrated into the back of Huo Yuhao's mind. A very blurry figure appeared in Huo Yuhao's sea of consciousness, with an indescribable majesty in his old voice. Holding the sun, moon, and stars, there is no one like me in the world. I never expected that I could still retain a trace of my soul. Ilao. Huo Yuhao and Tianmeng Ice Silkworm were pleasantly surprised and said. In the past life of Huo Yuhao, Electrolux was of great help to him. Both Huo Yuhao and Tianmeng Ice Silkworm respected and admired Electrolux greatly. This elderly man who had experienced a tragic experience always had a glimmer of light in his heart. In Huo Yuhao's growth, he played a role that was both a teacher and a father. At this moment, Electrolux appeared, and both Huo Yuhao and Tianmeng Ice Silkworm felt confident in their hearts, naturally pleasantly surprised. But Electrolux didn't pay any attention to the two of them and disappeared into the depths of the sea of consciousness. Huo Yuhao and Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, one by one, looked at each other in the sea of consciousness, speechless. Huo Yuhao said, I remember in my past life, Ilao also fell asleep for a long time at first, and then slowly regained his memory. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm nodded and said, that's right, we'll talk to Ilao in detail when he regains his memory. I am indeed the son of fate. Ilao couldn't be reborn with his memory, but I was reborn. Our brothers are the protagonists of this era. After a pause, Tianmeng Ice Silkworm continued, Yuhao, you have returned to your childhood now, and my spirit has been divided into two parts. This part of me in your sea of consciousness has crossed over from 10,000 years ago, and there is also a part of me in the star forest, probably the spirit of my own body in this era. Now my body has not been captured by Emperor Tian and they have the energy of a true million-year soul beast. Yuhao, how many levels are you at now? Can I go to the starry forest alone? Huo Yuhao asked. Tianmeng, do you want to become my wisdom soul ring like in your previous life? That's necessary. Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm said, it's my first time becoming a wisdom soul ring, and I'm a bit nervous. Now I have full confidence that I can succeed, and Yuhao, you can definitely become a god with the help of me and Ilao. Let's work together and create brilliance again. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment and said, but Tianmeng, I'm only at level 1. It's too dangerous to go to the star forest. Even if it's level 10, it's still very dangerous. Your body is in the star forest. Let me see if I can give it a try when I'm around level 20. After saying, in the core area, Tianmeng Bingchan and Huo Yuhao both fell silent. Are you still going to the core area? Are you using a smart soul ring or are you going to feed a 100,000-year-old soul beast? After the silence, Huo Yuhao became worried about the matter of the wisdom soul ring. It was much harder than the beginning of his previous life. At level 10, a heavenly dream ice silkworm took the initiative to become the wisdom soul ring. At level 20, he even possessed the ultimate ice emperor martial soul, with a 1,000,000-year soul ring and a 400,000-year soul ring. Now Huo Yuhao finds it difficult to obtain even the first wisdom soul ring, let alone the ultimate Ice Emperor martial soul. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm pondered for a moment and said, "You don't have to worry about the wisdom soul ring Rain Hao. Even if you don't have the energy of your body, I can still become your soul ring. However, in this way, your soul ring will temporarily lose its growth potential. You need to wait until you see my body and absorb the energy of my body before your soul ring can have growth potential." Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao breathed a sigh of relief. Having a smart soul ring is enough. Without the energy of the heavenly dream ice silkworm body, the soul ring cannot grow for a long time, which is not a big deal. The most important thing at present is to obtain the wisdom soul ring of the heavenly dream ice silkworm, and the other is to find the Ice Emperor and persuade her to become his second martial soul, so that he can have the ultimate Ice Emperor martial soul. The smart soul ring is easy to solve, but Yuhao, your second martial soul. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm looked a bit conflicted and said, "The Ice Emperor has a bad temper. In his past life, he finally developed a liking for me, but now he has returned to his original state. 10,000 years later, the Ice Emperor will soon face the heavenly calamity, and it is easier for us to persuade her. After all, she only has a lifespan of less than 100 years. Why not give it a fight? But now she is still over 10,000 years away from the heavenly calamity, and we are afraid that if we talk to the heavens, it will be difficult for her to agree." Huo Yuhao was quite amused and said with a smile, "Brother Tianmeng, you don't have to have any psychological burden. It's best if you can succeed naturally, but if you can't, we have a high probability of becoming gods. With you and Ilao here, I'm not afraid of anything." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Making Money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Making Money. Subsequently, Huo Yuhao opened his eyes. At this moment, only he and the old village chief were left in the wooden house. Su Yuntao and several other children have already left. Seeing Huo Yuhao wake up, the village chief old John kindly said, "Yuhao woke up. Let's go." Huo Yuhao nodded and followed John as they walked out of the wooden house. John walked ahead and suddenly spoke up, "Yuhao, do you want to become a soul master?" Huo Yuhao did not answer, but asked, "Grandpa village chief, do you know Shrek College?" Old John thought for a moment and asked, "What kind of college is Shrek College?" "I haven't heard of it before, I only know of Nottingham Junior Soul Master College." "That's right. 10,000 years ago, Shrek Academy was just a startup and didn't have much fame." Huo Yuhao asked again, "What should I do if I want to go to Soul Master Academy?" In his past life, if he wanted to enter Soul Master Academy, he needed both money and talent. If it was a prestigious academy, such as Shrek Academy, he also needed a spot. When Huo Yuhao entered Shrek Academy, he used Tang Ye's spot. Old John said, "The 4 villages around us share a working student quota, and working students do not need tuition. The only one in our village who can become a soul master is you. If you want to study at the Soul Master Academy, I will ask the surrounding villages. As long as there are no children with innate soul power in their villages, this working student quota belongs to you. You can then go to the Junior Soul Master Academy in Notting City to study." Huo Yuhao said, "Thank you very much, Grandpa John." As time passed, Huo Yuhao's mind gradually received some memories that had never been before, which belonged to the original Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao also didn't know whether he was physically traveling or only mentally traveling, everything was very coincidental. Old John received Huo Yuhao's answer and turned around to leave. Huo Yuhao returned to his own home. Huo Yuhao was an orphan in his lifetime, with both parents lost since childhood. He grew up eating from 100 families. "My main priority now is to improve my soul power as soon as possible. After a little bit of self-protection, I will go to the Star Forest to receive Tianmeng Brothers' body energy. But my talent is extremely poor now, and my innate soul power is only at level 1. There is no elixir in my past life that can cut hair, wash marrow, and enhance soul power. It is difficult for me to improve my soul power to a certain level within a few years. 10,000 years ago, there was no pill to enhance soul power, which made Huo Yuhao's path somewhat difficult. Huo Yuhao actually knows the formulas of some pills, but the two most important pills that enhance soul power in the early stage, Xian Shui Dan and Xing Soul Dan, cannot be refined by knowing the formulas. Xian Shui Dan requires the essence and blood of more than 10 water attribute soul beasts, as well as more than 10 water attribute plants, to be refined. The soul ascending pill requires several types of genius treasures. Huo Yuhao has no materials on hand and cannot refine them at all. We can only make some money first and see if we can purchase some herbs from others. Soul masters in this era still don't know how to refine pills, so the price should not be expensive. When it comes to making money, Huo Yuhao immediately thought of two channels for making money. One is to roast fish in our old business, and the other is to make soul guides and sell them for money. It goes without saying that grilled fish is extremely rare and has a single function in this era. If Huo Yuhao could make some soul guides, it would be easy to sell them for money. These two channels of making money are naturally the fastest for making soul guides, but now Huo Yuhao's soul power level is too low, even making first-level soul guides is a bit difficult, not to mention soul guides such as milk bottles and soul guide shields that can sell big money. I didn't expect that my startup funds would still need to be earned by selling grilled fish. Huo Yuhao smiled slightly, which reminded him of the days when he sold grilled fish at Shrek College. Although Huo Yuhao does not have the 4 million-year soul skills bestowed upon him by the heavenly dream ice silkworm, nor does he have spiritual detection, his own skill in grilled fish is quite good. Even if he cannot make it unforgettable, it is not a bad thing to go out and set up a stall. Well, I know several pill formulas that can enhance soul power and body, but the effects are average. First, make money to purchase materials, refine them, and use them. When I make a lot of money, I'll consider the two elixirs of Xianshui pill and Xinghun pill. For today's plan, we still need to work hard to improve our soul power. As long as our soul power improves, whether it's making soul guides or going to the Star Forest, it will be relatively easier. Having made up his mind, Huo Yuhao immediately began to build his own tools. He doesn't have any money on hand now. He has to make his own fish grilling tools and go to the river to catch the fish. As for the seasoning, Huo Yuhao has no choice but to borrow it from his neighbor's house. Huo Yuhao first made a simple fishing net, threw it into the river, and then began making grilled fish tools. Iron was borrowed from the blacksmith's house and a prototype was created with the help of the blacksmith uncle. Later, Huo Yuhao completed the transformation and assembly. After crafting the grilled fish tools, it was already the morning of the third day. Huo Yuhao came to the river, picked up the fishing net, and saw that there were 5 green fish. Huo Yuhao was suddenly surprised. He lifted his spiritual eyes and martial soul to look into the river, where there were many green fish. He immediately picked up the borrowed dagger, cut a sharp branch, and entered the river barefoot, starting to fish. With a thud, Huo Yuhao inserted a green fish. Then the branches brought the green fish up. Huo Yuhao's spiritual eyes and martial soul can greatly enhance his vision, and he also has a faint ability to capture dynamics. These green fish naturally cannot escape Huo Yuhao's branches. Soon, Huo Yuhao inserted nearly 20 green fish. Huo Yuhao happily returned to the riverbank and managed around 20 green fish. The people in the village cook for themselves, and many families don't have any spare money. My green fish is not very easy to sell, and I definitely can't ask for too high a price. Why don't you go to Notting City to sell? There are many wealthy people there. Well, by the way, I'll go sell it at the entrance of the Junior Soul Master Academy in Notting City. Soul Master children are all stupid and have a lot of money, so I could ask for a higher price. Huo Yuhao thought of this and immediately carried the crime on his back. The grilled fish tool, carrying green fish and seasoning, and headed towards Notting City. Huo Yuhao's body was very thin and weak, and after an hour of walking, he was panting heavily. Arriving at Notting City, Huo Yuhao inquired about the way to Notting City Junior Soul Master Academy. He then brought his belongings and arrived at Notting City Junior Soul Master Academy. As noon approached, some teenagers walked out of the Junior Soul Master Academy, looking as if they were considering where to eat. Huo Yuhao smiled slightly, skillfully set up the fish grill, lit the fire, placed the grilled fish, and began to focus on grilling the fish. With the assistance of Huo Yuhao's spiritual eyes, he was able to observe the state of grilled fish in a subtle way. Even though it was not as detailed as mental detection, it was still sufficient for use. Soon, the charming aroma of grilled fish drifted out. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Level 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Level 7. Hey, kid, how do you sell this grilled fish? A Soul Master boy wearing a school uniform was attracted by the aroma of grilled fish and said to Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao looked up and saw a teenager in his teens. He said calmly, a grilled fish and a silver soul coin. On the Douluo continent, 1 golden soul coin is equivalent to 10 silver soul coins and 100 copper soul coins. In his past life, Huo Yuhao sold grilled fish. Each green fish cost 1 copper coin, and he sold it for 5 copper coins, attracting a constant stream of customers. Now Huo Yuhao is short of money, and this young man is very impolite. Let's kill him first. The boy heard the price and didn't care. He threw down a silver coin and said, okay, bake me a piece. Quickly, the green fish was grilled, and Huo Yuhao put away the silver coins and handed the grilled fish to the boy. The young man took a bite while it was hot, and after finishing it, his eyes lit up. He gave a thumbs up and said, your grilled fish tastes very good, and there is indeed a reason why it is expensive. Give me 2 more. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment and said, 1 grilled fish costs 1 silver coin, 3 grilled fish costs 5 silver coins. Youth. Good guy, the more others buy, the cheaper they get. Why did they come to you? The more they buy, the more expensive they get. The young man hesitated for a moment, but instead of paying directly, he asked, why do you buy more and the price becomes more expensive? Huo Yuhao said, I have prepared 20 green fish today. I was originally planning to let more people taste them so that I could open up a market for selling grilled fish in the future. Everyone knows that my grilled fish tastes good, and I will sell more in the future. You have to buy 3 at once, which has caused me to lose 2 customers. Can I not ask for a higher price? When the young man thought about it, it seemed reasonable. He reluctantly took out 4 silver coins and handed them to Huo Yuhao, saying, today I've started a small stove. Here's the money for you, and I'll have 2 more. This Junior Soul Master Academy is really good, everyone is foolish and rich. Huo Yuhao smiled slightly, accepted the silver coins, and began to focus on grilling fish. Because it was lunchtime, after this young man, many students from the Junior Soul Master Academy came to Huo Yuhao's side smelling the fragrance. These young men didn't hesitate to pay for grilled green fish for 1 silver coin, but after hearing that 2 grilled fish cost 3 silver coins and 3 grilled fish cost 5 silver coins, few young men chose to buy more. Only a few gritted their teeth and bought 2. In just over an hour, all 20 green fish were sold out. Gain 2 gold coins and 6 silver coins. Huo Yuhao carried a huge sum of money and was very excited in his heart. He didn't expect the price to increase to 1 silver coin per grilled fish, and it still sold so well. He even unreasonably asked students who bought more grilled fish to pay more, and there were so many unscrupulous people willing to pay. This Junior Soul Master Academy is really amazing. He will come back tomorrow. Huo Yuhao came to the pharmacy with money. He earned over 2 gold coins in a day, but don't think that the purchasing power of gold coins is very low. In fact, 1 gold coin can make an ordinary family of 3 live for several months. In the past life, the price of herbs that could be made into soul-enhancing pills had already been hyped up to a very high level, but now it is 10,000 years ago, so it should not be very expensive. 2 more gold coins should be enough to purchase some herbs. Huo Yuhao inquired at the pharmacy and found that the price of the herb was indeed not expensive, but it also cost him nearly 2 gold coins. After purchasing a herb, Huo Yuhao left the city of Nodding. This herb can only be used to refine one type of pill called soul tonifying pill. As the name suggests, it can nourish the soul. The effect of this pill is very unique. After the soul master awakens the martial soul and reaches level 10, taking the soul tonifying pill can increase the speed of soul power cultivation and slightly improve the physical fitness of the soul master. Once the soul power reaches level 10, this pill will have no effect. However, for the current Huo Yuhao, it just works. Before level 10, Huo Yuhao did not have much combat power, and it was difficult to make soul guides because his soul power was not enough. It can be said that before level 10, Huo Yuhao was the most difficult period. As long as Huo Yuhao reaches level 10, he can not only obtain the wisdom soul ring of the heavenly dream ice silkworm, but also earn money by making soul guides, which can enhance his soul power and wealth like a snowball. Huo Yuhao calmly took out the refined pill with both hands and took it orally. Subsequently, Huo Yuhao began to meditate and cultivate soul power. Huo Yuhao's innate soul power is only at level 1, and his talent is very poor. Based on previous life experiences, he can only reach level 10 at the age of 11. Huo Yuhao cannot follow the old path of his past life. He must improve his body and talent as soon as possible. Grandpa John told me yesterday that other villages wouldn't compete for a spot, and I successfully got the spot for a part-time student. There are still 3 months left until I go to Nodding City Junior Soul Master College. These 3 months are enough for me to improve by at least 3 levels. Huo Yuhao is very confident that at today's earning rate, he can steadily earn at least 2 gold coins per day. In 3 months, that would be over 200 gold coins, which is almost enough to refine 4 or 5 types of pills. Even if these pills are not as effective as Xianshui pill and soul ascending pill, it is definitely not a problem to increase soul power by more than 1 level in total, and also to improve physical fitness. In addition, Huo Yuhao constantly strives to cultivate and improves by 3 levels in 3 months, without any problem. Even if Huo Yuhao sells more grilled fish, he may still be able to refine soul-boosting pills. The soul-boosting pill can increase the first level soul power by 30 levels. If Huo Yuhao eats the soul-boosting pill now, he may be able to increase the soul power by at least 3 levels. Thinking of this, Huo Yuhao's cultivation became more motivated. Selling grilled fish, selling grilled fish. Delicious grilled fish, freshly baked grilled fish. Huo Yuhao casually grilled the green fish while shouting loudly. He is in a good mood. Over the past 3 months, Huo Yuhao has been selling nearly 100 grilled fish in a day thanks to his hard work, and occasionally tricked students, earning over 700 gold coins. Discovering that he was saving money quickly, Huo Yuhao didn't spend money to buy other pill materials. He saved up all the money he had earned and finally saved up enough money a few days ago to buy the materials for the soul-boosting pill. He refined them yesterday and ate them. Level 4. A soul-boosting pill directly increased Huo Yuhao's soul power by 4 levels. For the past 3 months, Huo Yuhao has been squeezing his body every day, and his physical fitness has made significant progress. His soul power has also greatly improved. Before taking the ascending soul pill, Huo Yuhao's level had reached level 3. After taking the soul-boosting pill, I was able to directly upgrade from level 3 to level 7. Even the heavenly dream ice silkworm woke up from its slumber and sent congratulations. Huo Yuhao is currently at level 7, only 3 levels away from level 10. Who would believe that 3 months ago, Huo Yuhao was just a first-level novice who had just awakened his martial soul. Boosting soul power by 6 levels in 3 months is unprecedented, not to mention that there will be no one in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Grand Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Grand Master. Selling grilled fish is such a way to make money. In the future, I will come to Notting City Junior Soul Master Academy to study, and in my leisure time, I can also come out and set up a stall. There aren't too many students and even fewer teachers at Notting City Junior Soul Master College, and most of them have tasted Huo Yuhao's grilled fish. Although they praise the taste of grilled fish endlessly, not everyone could eat it every day at this price. When it sold a lot, Huo Yuhao went to the Martial Soul Hall to sell a part of it. Soul masters were wealthy, and the taste of grilled fish was also good. Many people were willing to spend money to taste it. After selling it out, I received over 8 gold coins today. I'm coming to report tomorrow. I'll bring back the fish grilling tools today, and I won't grill the fish tomorrow. I'll familiarize myself with the situation in the college before I can. Huo Yuhao put on his fish grilling tool and left gracefully. Just as he left the entrance of Soul Master Academy, a voice shouted from behind, "Yuhao, did you close your stall so early today?" Huo Yuhao turned around and saw Su Yuntao. In the past few months, Huo Yuhao occasionally went to sell grilled fish at the entrance of the Martial Soul Hall in Notting City, and naturally met Su Yuntao. As soon as he came and went, the two of them became familiar with each other. Su Yuntao sometimes comes to Soul Master College to take care of Huo Yuhao's grilled fish business. Huo Yuhao found that the Soul Masters in the Martial Soul Hall were all considered good. Although there were Soul Masters who had some arrogance, non-Martial Soul Hall Soul Masters were also like this. Soul Masters in the Martial Soul Hall were not considered arrogant or domineering. Although Huo Yuhao knew that the Martial Soul Hall would be destroyed, he inevitably developed some favorable feelings towards it. Huo Yuhao smiled and said, "It turns out it's Brother Tao. We sold out early today, so we should close the stall early and go home. We have to report to the college tomorrow, and today is the perfect time to go back and prepare." Su Yuntao nodded and said, "That's true. I almost forgot that you're still a Soul Master. After entering the Soul Master Academy, you should practice well. If anyone bullies you, just tell me and I'll take care of them." "Thank you." Huo Yuhao said thank you and turned to leave. On that day, Huo Yuhao picked up his backpack, bid farewell to old John, and arrived alone in Notting City. In the past 3 months, Huo Yuhao has been very familiar with Notting City and has come to the Junior Soul Master Academy with ease. As soon as he arrived at the entrance of the college, Huo Yuhao heard a rough voice. "What's going on? I'm not convinced. I said you came from a beggar's village, is there anything wrong? Look at your clothes, they're all patched up. You should quickly find a place to beg. Our Notting College is not a good school." Huo Yuhao fixed his eyes and saw that the person speaking was the gatekeeper of Notting College. He was selling grilled fish here at Notting College, so he naturally knew the gatekeeper here. The gatekeeper had even eaten his grilled fish. Facing the gatekeeper were a group of elderly and young people. The elderly had white hair all over their heads, while the children were only around 6 years old and had an average appearance. Just as Huo Yuhao was watching, the child suddenly moved his feet, pushed his palm and tripped his leg, directly tripping over the gatekeeper. "Stinky kid, you're looking for death." The gatekeeper was pushed down by a child and became furious. After getting up from the ground, he was about to rush towards the child. Huo Yuhao was about to stop the other party when a hoarse voice sounded, "All right, stop it." Huo Yuhao couldn't help but turn his head to see that he was a middle-aged man in his 40s and 50s, with a moderate build and a slight lean. He has short black hair and an ordinary appearance. His hands are behind his back, and his expression carries a hint of laziness and decadence. Huo Yuhao frowned slightly. He had been selling grilled fish at the entrance of Notting College for 3 months. Both students and teachers had basically seen him, but he had never seen this person before. "The master, have you returned?" The gatekeeper immediately nodded and bowed. Grand Master. Huo Yuhao looked puzzled. Is there anyone else with this name? Huo Yuhao carefully stared at the middle-aged man, who gave him a hint of familiarity. Have I ever seen him? But I've seen too many people. I've forgotten. Huo Yuhao didn't care and walked straight over. At this moment, the middle-aged man spoke to the old man and said, Sir, can you show me the proof of the martial soul hall? The old man quickly handed over the proof in his hand, and the middle-aged man received it. He nodded slightly and said, The proof is correct, sir. Let me hand over this child. Subsequently, the middle-aged man took a deep glance at the gatekeeper and led the child into Nodding College. Seeing that there was no real conflict, Huo Yuhao walked over and said to the gatekeeper, Gatekeeper, this is my proof. I have come to report. The gatekeeper naturally knew Huo Yuhao and exclaimed in surprise, Little guy, are you also here to report? Do you have innate soul power? Huo Yuhao chuckled and handed over his proof, Just take a look and you'll know. The gatekeeper took the certificate and casually glanced at it, saying with a smile, It's really there, but the innate soul power is only one level. Even one level is stronger than me. Alright, for those who can become soul masters in the future, go report. The gatekeeper made a joke and let Huo Yuhao in. The old man was about to leave when he saw the gatekeeper joking with Huo Yuhao. He was immediately stunned. This was still the extremely harsh gatekeeper from earlier. This child's clothes are even more worn out than theirs, why doesn't this gatekeeper say he's a beggar? It's really strange. Huo Yuhao entered Nodding College and saw the middle-aged man and child in front stop, as if saying something more. Curious, Huo Yuhao couldn't help but approach. As he got closer, Huo Yuhao heard the middle-aged man's tone say calmly, There are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters. Upon hearing these words, Huo Yuhao paused in his footsteps, his expression somewhat strange. He didn't understand why the middle-aged man would say such words. The quality of a martial soul determines the upper limit of a soul master. If it's just a whole martial soul, the innate soul power is only one level. Even a genius like Huo Yuhao dare not say that he can cultivate to the title Douluo. If Huo Yuhao did not have innate soul power, he would not even be able to achieve soul masters. Martial soul is the cornerstone, and all superstructure is built on it. If it is a useless martial soul, even a genius soul master is powerless. The reason why Huo Yuhao is strange is because this sentence is indeed quite passionate. Although it doesn't make much sense, it makes people sound passionate. If it were a teenager shouting this sentence, Huo Yuhao would take it for granted, after all, who is not yet in second grade. But this middle-aged man looks like he's already in his 40s or 50s. In theory, he shouldn't say such a second-year-old thing. Is it true that this middle-aged man, relying on his own strength and using an ordinary martial soul, has reached a very high level of cultivation? If that's the case, then the explanation makes sense. Huo Yuhao had a guess in his heart, and for a moment, he suddenly asked with a slightly respectful expression, Uncle, may I ask what your level is? But a strong person above soul saint. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Is He Tang San? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 is He Tang San. This middle-aged man appears to be in his 40s or 50s. If he were a talented soul master, he would probably be able to cultivate to level 80 or above. Huo Yuhao saw the laziness of the other party's every move and became more and more certain of his speculation. This middle-aged man must have reached a very high level of cultivation with a useless martial soul through his own efforts. Otherwise, he would not have dared to say such words. Huo Yuhao is looking forward to the other party's answer. But to Huo Yuhao's surprise, the middle-aged man was first taken aback, and then not only did he not show the expected arrogance, but his face turned red and he pointed at Huo Yuhao, who was so angry that he couldn't speak. Huo Yuhao muttered to himself that it was terrible. Things may not be as he had imagined. He quickly wanted to say something to make up for it, but the middle-aged man suddenly let out a long sigh and walked away, covering his face. Huo Yuhao, with his excellent eyesight, noticed a tear in the corner of the middle-aged man's eye. Huo Yuhao suddenly froze, and the middle-aged man was told by him to cry. Such an adult, why are you so sensitive? Huo Yuhao couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Master. Master. The ordinary little boy who came in earlier quickly chased after the middle-aged man. Upon hearing the little boy's address, Huo Yuhao widened his eyes and exclaimed in shock, "Is that person a master? No wonder he feels a bit familiar." In his past life, when he entered Shrek Academy, he saw a statue of a master. Of course, Huo Yuhao had only seen statues, so he suddenly saw a real person just now and didn't recall it for a moment. Huo Yuhao patted his head and said, "I'm so foolish. What kind of great master is that?" The gatekeeper stuttered. After a pause, Huo Yuhao murmured, "I remember the master seemed to have only 50 levels of soul power. No, it seems that there is a record in unofficial history that the master only crossed the 30-level threshold after eating genius treasures. Before he entered Shrek Academy, it seemed like he was only 20.9 levels." Huo Yuhao looked at the master's back in the distance, his expression somewhat awkward. No wonder the master hid his face and left. He was only 29 levels, but he mistakenly thought he was over 70 levels. However, on the other hand, was the master originally a sophomore? I remember he seemed to have summarized the top 10 core competencies of martial souls, which should be a senior with rich theoretical knowledge. How could he say things like, "There are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters"? Huo Yuhao shook his head and asked the nearby classmates for directions, then turned his head and walked towards the academic affairs office. Nodding College is mainly divided into these areas: the Bishop's Building, the playground, and the dormitory building on the east side of the playground. The Academic Affairs Office is located on the first floor of the teaching building, and the person responsible for receiving new students is a teacher in his 60s, who is accompanied by 2 young teachers to assist. Huo Yuhao arrived at the Academic Affairs Office and saw the master leading the little boy to enroll. Huo Yuhao smiled kindly at the master and wanted to explain. However, when the master saw Huo Yuhao, his expression changed slightly and he asked, "Are you also a new student this year?" Huo Yuhao said politely, "Hello master, my name is Huo Yuhao and I am a new student this year." The master only asked one question before saying more. On the contrary, the little boy looked at Huo Yuhao with some curiosity and said, "Hello, my name is Tang San, and we will be classmates in the future." Puff. Huo Yuhao almost spat out his saliva. Tang San. Huo Yuhao quickly took a step back, distanced himself from Tang San, and asked, "You are Tang San? Do you have a daughter? Cough, do you have a wife? Cough, you. This 6-year-old Tang San, where does he have a daughter and wife?" Huo Yuhao almost stopped himself for a moment. After pondering for a moment, Huo Yuhao asked, "What is your father's name?" Although Tang San felt strange in his heart, he felt that there was nothing worth hiding, so he replied, "Tang Hao." Huo Yuhao's eyes widened and he took a slight breath. Feeling the drastic change in Huo Yuhao's emotions, Tianmeng Ice Silkworm couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong, Yuhao?" Huo Yuhao said, "This little boy, he is Tang San." Ah! Tianmeng Ice Silkworm's voice suddenly raised, "Is he Tang San?" Huo Yuhao did not hear fear or worry from the voice of Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, but rather a hint of excitement. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm immediately burst out laughing and said, "Tang San is only 6 years old now. What are we afraid of him for? Why are we taking his throne? His throne is the Shura God, and the Shura God is the Divine King's throne. Bring him over. The Divine King takes turns sitting at my house this year." Rain Hao, we also experienced the feeling of being a Divine King. Huo Yuhao. Cough, brother has lost his composure. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm restrained his laughter and said, but this is indeed an opportunity. His daughter, you must not think about it. You are already a figure of the same era as Tang San. Even if he gives birth to Tang Wudong in the future, how can he possibly agree to let you be good? Since you are no longer your father.in.law and son.in.law, he has ravaged you in various ways in his past life. What's wrong with snatching his divine king's throne? Now the divine king's throne is unowned, first come, first served. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment and said, what you said, brother Tianmeng, seems to make some sense. However, I am still far from becoming a god. It is too early to talk about snatching the throne of the god king. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm said, well, it's a bit early indeed. Our plan for now is to improve our cultivation as soon as possible. Rain Hao, hurry up and practice, brother, hide now. Then, there was no sound. Huo Yuhao looked at Tang San. This little boy was ordinary, with black hair and black pupils, completely different from the handsome blue hair that Huo Yuhao knew. When Huo Yuhao looked at Tang San was also looking at Huo Yuhao. He didn't understand why this handsome boy reacted so strongly when he heard his name. Tang San couldn't help but ask curiously, do you know me? Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, I don't know. Now we can be considered acquainted. Speaking fluently, Tang San completed the admission procedures and then left with the master. Huo Yuhao stepped forward and handed his proof to the teacher. The teacher quickly completed the registration and said to Huo Yuhao, you live in the 7th room of the dormitory building, which is the dormitory for working-class students. These things are distributed for free. If you want to use your free time to work and earn living expenses, go to the teacher in the dormitory building, and he will arrange the work of working-class students for you. Huo Yuhao took the things handed over by the teacher and left. The number of students at Notting College is not large, and there is only one dormitory building. Huo Yuhao can find it without asking for directions. Chisha is a relatively special dormitory, where all working-class students live regardless of age. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. You are the boss of 7 houses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. You are the boss of 7 houses. Arriving at the entrance of the 7th dormitory, Huo Yuhao was about to knock when he heard a loud bang coming from inside the dormitory. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment, but didn't knock on the door. He pushed the door open and walked in. After entering, the first thing he saw was a boy lying on the ground, while Tang San maintained his leg movements. Is this, starting a fight? Huo Yuhao looked at the dormitory, which was a very spacious room, nearly 300 square meters, with 50 beds arranged inside. However, there were only 11 beds with bedding. The boy lying on the ground quickly got up and looked at Huo Yuhao, asking, are you also a new working-class student? Huo Yuhao nodded. The young man looked at Tang San and said, if you win against me, you will become the leader of the 7 houses in the future. Now there is a new one, give him a boost. Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao furrowed his brows. It was just a group of teenagers who had started forming cliques to bully Xiaowu. Tang San shook his head and said, I'm not interested in giving it to you. After thinking for a moment, the young man walked up to Huo Yuhao and said, my name is Wang Sheng, what's your name? Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao remained silent. He untied his package and threw it onto the empty bed next to him. Then he looked at Wang Sheng and said, come on, let me see how powerful your downward force is. Huo Yuhao himself is a genius, and he naturally has pride in his heart. The boy in front of him is at most level 10, with only 1 soul ring. Huo Yuhao has already reached level 7, so he can't fight. Of course, with Tang San present, the Tang clan's tactics would definitely not work. However, Huo Yuhao himself has extremely rich combat experience, and these 3 months of tireless exercise, coupled with a rich supply of food, his body is now very robust. Compared to 3 months ago, it is simply incomparable. Wang Xing smiled and said, don't be angry. Every work student who comes here has to face these things. We work students are already looked down upon by other students, so we must unite. If you can beat me, you will be the leader of Qixia. Huo Yuhao said calmly, don't talk nonsense, let's talk after finishing the fight. Okay. Wang Xing's expression narrowed and he suddenly punched Huo Yuhao. In Huo Yuhao's pupils, Wang Xing's movements seemed to slow down a lot. With just one glance, Huo Yuhao had at least 10 ways to defeat Wang Xing, and he chose the simplest one. On one side of Huo Yuhao's upper body, he dodged Wang Xing's fist and suddenly kicked out his leg. Huo Yuhao's leg was like a scorpion swinging its tail, cleverly kicking Wang Xing's chest. Bang! Wang Xing stumbled back a few steps, then sat down on the ground, feeling a tightness in his chest and almost unable to catch his breath. Seeing Huo Yuhao's decisive move to solve Wang Xing, Tang San's pupils suddenly shrank. He quietly practiced in his mind and found that without hidden weapons, he couldn't even defeat the handsome young man in front of him. Even with the use of hidden weapons, it's only 5 strokes away. He has confidence in winning 3 meters away, but if the distance is shortened to within 2 meters, he will undoubtedly lose. The timing of that kick was so wonderful that Wang Xing couldn't dodge it, and Tang San couldn't dodge it either. Wang Xing sat on the ground, somewhat skeptical of life. Are all the new students so powerful now? I can't beat one, but I can't beat another. That child just now, at least he had a few moves with the other party, and this young man actually defeated him with just one kick. In terms of strength, this young man is actually not as good as him, but the timing is difficult for him to grasp. Huo Yuhao walked up to Wang Xing and extended his hand. Wang Xing was slightly taken aback, then smiled and said, "Thank you." Speaking, he took Huo Yuhao's hand and stood up. Huo Yuhao withdrew his hand and asked, "I see that your bedding is not standard, are they all self-purchased? Aren't bedding distributed in school?" Wang Xing shook his head and said, "Does the school still send you bedding? Just send you a dormitory. How could the school manage these things? Our bedding is all brought from home by ourselves. If you don't have bedding, I can lend it to you for use." "No need." Huo Yuhao shook his head and prepared to go out and buy a set of bedding later. He still has some money on hand, so buying some daily necessities is not a problem. Wang Xing said solemnly, "Young brother. Well, I don't know your name yet. Since you've defeated me, you'll be the leader of our 7 houses from now on." Huo Yuhao said, "My name is Huo Yuhao. Didn't Tang San defeat you just now? Aren't you going to let us fight again? Who won and who will be the boss?" Wang Xing looked at Tang San, smiled, and said, "Tang San doesn't seem to want to be the boss. Yuhao, you should be the boss. Don't think that being the boss is enjoyable. Look at me." Speaking, Wang Xing rolled up the sleeves of his school uniform, and there were 7 or 8 blue and purple scars on his arm. Wang Xing said, "We working-class students all come from poor families, and because of the small number of people, the people in other dormitories will bully us. If we don't keep warm together, we won't be able to survive. As the leader of the 7 houses, we must stand up for our brothers. This is not a job to enjoy, but a responsibility. Tang San shook his head and said he really didn't want to be the boss. Upon hearing this, a faint smile flashed on Huo Yuhao's face and he said, "Sure, if someone bullies." Before finishing speaking, a crisp voice sounded from the entrance of the dormitory. "Excuse me, is this the 7th dormitory?" Huo Yuhao followed the sound and looked. That was a pretty little girl, about 6 years old. Her pretty face was white with a hint of red, and her pink and tender appearance was like a ripe peach, which made people very eager to take a bite. The little girl's clothing is relatively simple, not flashy, but very clean and tidy. Her long black hair was combed into a scorpion braid that hung over her hips, and her watery big eyes were filled with curiosity. Wang Xing was surprised by the beauty of the little girl, but quickly regained his senses and gave Huo Yuhao a push. He whispered, "Boss, hurry up and give him a push." Then he murmured softly, "It's really strange. Last year, there wasn't even a working student, but this year, there were 3. Huo Yuhao was a bit embarrassed. If it were a boy, it wouldn't matter if he punched him. Such a beautiful little girl, punching her would probably make her cry for a long time, right? The little girl blinked her big eyes and saw that no one was paying attention to her. She looked up at the sign on the door and smiled, "Hello, my name is Xiaowu, a dancing dance." Lying trough. Huo Yuhao instinctively took a step back and looked shocked. Xiaowu. Dancing dance. That's not my mother.in.law's catchphrase. Tang San. Xiaowu. So they met here. Huo Yuhao did not expect to see his father.in.law and mother.in.law in a single day. Fortunately, I didn't get started directly earlier, otherwise. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment in fear, but then he realized that Tang San was only 6 years old and had only 10 levels of innate soul power, and Xiaowu was also 10 levels. They may not be able to beat him, and even if they get started, it seems like there will be no consequences. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. You lose a lot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. You lose a lot. Wang Xing poked Huo Yuhao in the back, indicating that he couldn't break the rules of the dormitory. Huo Yuhao took a deep breath with toothache, only to realize that he had taken over the role of Tang San. Once he agreed to become the leader of Qixia, he would have to face Xiaowu. Huo Yuhao gave Tang San a glance and whispered, "Tang San, hurry up." Huo Yuhao really didn't want to take action against Xiaowu. This past life was his mother.in.law. Tang San frowned and said displeasedly, "I wouldn't take action against a girl. Besides, the leader of Qixia is you. If you want to take action, it's also you." Huo Yuhao. 3. Do you know what you're talking about? Are you sure you want me to take action? Huo Yuhao is not afraid of Xiaowu. He has extremely rich combat experience. Although his soul power is slightly lower than Xiaowu at this time, Xiaowu also does not have the first soul ring, so the difference is not significant. But when facing Xiaowu, Huo Yuhao had a feeling of facing his elders. Although Xiaowu is now about the same age as him, he was his mother.in.law in his past life. For a while, Huo Yuhao's mindset couldn't change. Xiaowu curiously said, "What are you talking about? What kind of move are you going to make? Are you going to make a move on me?" Huo Yuhao shook his head and was about to deny it when Wang Xing behind him loudly said, "That's right. The rule of our 7 houses is that new people should show their strength. This is the leader of our 7 houses, let him test your strength." Speaking, Wang Xing also gave Huo Yuhao a push. Huo Yuhao. Upon hearing Wang Xing's words, Xiaowu's expression was filled with uncontrollable excitement. She looked at Huo Yuhao and said, "The leader of Qixia. Then come." Huo Yuhao looked at Tang San as if seeking help, and Tang San turned his head to look elsewhere. He thought to himself, "Who would make you willing to be the leader of the 7 houses? I won't help you." Huo Yuhao's request for help was fruitless, so he had to grit his teeth. As soon as Huo Yuhao took a step, Xiaowu's right leg bent up in an instant, and her toes bounced out like lightning, heading straight towards Huo Yuhao's chin at a very fast speed. A few people next to him, including Tang San and Wang Xing, were also slightly surprised. The little girl reacted so quickly. Tang San suddenly had a mentality of watching good plays. Fortunately, he didn't act just now, otherwise he might not have been able to beat this little girl. This guy named Huo Yuhao is probably going to make a fool of himself. As soon as Huo Yuhao entered a combat state, all the entanglements were instantly forgotten. His eyes remained calm, and his spirit and martial soul used them. Xiaowu's right leg seemed to slow down a bit, and Huo Yuhao's body instantly retreated. Before Xiaowu's right leg hit him, he took 2 consecutive steps back and avoided Xiaowu's upward kick. Subsequently, Huo Yuhao grabbed Xiaowu's exhausted right leg and ankle, while kicking his own right leg towards Xiaowu's left leg. Huo Yuhao has rich combat experience, and this response surprised Xiaowu. She didn't expect this handsome young man to not only dodge her attack when she suddenly took action, but also make a counterattack. However, Xiaowu is not just a 6-year-old girl, she also has rich combat experience. I saw Xiaowu's left leg kicking the ground, and her body jumped up with it. Her left leg tightened, and her body spun slightly, not only avoiding Huo Yuhao's kick, but also freeing her ankle. Huo Yuhao felt a huge rotational force coming from his right hand and couldn't help but let go of Xiaowu's ankle. Before he could react, Xiaowu's left leg had already crossed his shoulder. At the same time, Xiaowu's right leg also climbed onto Huo Yuhao's shoulder on the other side. Now is the scene. Xiaowu's legs are resting on Huo Yuhao's shoulders and still being folded together. Huo Yuhao was slightly surprised. Of course, he knew that Xiaowu was good at soft skills. Once he was caught by Xiaowu's legs around his neck, it was really a matter of life and death. Huo Yuhao even noticed that a smug smile had appeared on Xiaowu's lips, as if he had already seen his victory. Huo Yuhao hesitated for a moment before immediately lifting his hands and blocking his own neck before Xiaowu's legs wrapped around his neck. Xiaowu closed her legs and clamped Huo Yuhao's neck. Just different from the scene she had imagined, although she held on to Huo Yuhao's neck, there were still hands between her legs and neck. Xiaowu Xiaomei furrowed her eyebrows slightly, and her legs added a little more force. Then she leaned back, propped her palms on the ground, and her soft legs twisted around Huo Yuhao's neck like springs, trying to throw him out. At this moment, Huo Yuhao's neck was protected by his hands and would not be constrained by Xiaowu. Xiaowu's tender calves did not make him hesitate at all. Huo Yuhao suddenly exerted force, and his hands forcefully opened the shackles of Xiaowu's legs. Suddenly caught off guard, Xiaowu's strength dissipated and she immediately lay on the ground. Then, Xiaowu got up in embarrassment and said, "You're a fool." Huo Yuhao was speechless for a moment, and if he couldn't beat him, he would just say he was cheating. Was his mother-in-law so unreasonable when he was a child? Huo Yuhao shrugged and said, "Everyone is watching. I didn't ask anyone for help, and I didn't ambush you. Why did I just cheat?" Xiaowu pointed at Huo Yuhao and said, "How can you put your hand around your neck?" Huo Yuhao. Why don't you ask me how I can win? Seeing Huo Yuhao not speaking, Xiaowu seemed to have realized that she didn't make sense. She exclaimed angrily, "All right, you won. I won't be lenient in the future." Xiaowu glared at Huo Yuhao and threw her luggage onto an empty bed. Huo Yuhao thought for a moment and said to Xiaowu, "Why don't you be the leader of Qixia?" "How can that be done?" Wang Sheng and Xiaowu said at the same time. However, Wang Sheng was surprised and negated, while Xiaowu was secretly delighted and eager to refuse and welcome. Huo Yuhao spoke up and said, "Everyone can see Xiaowu's strength. Besides me, who else is confident that you can beat her? She can definitely protect you from being bullied." After thinking for a moment, Wang Sheng first glanced at Huo Yuhao, then at Xiaowu and said, "It's not impossible." Huo Yuhao pretended not to be the leader of the 7 houses, while Xiaowu was very willing and had strong abilities. It seemed that there was no problem for Xiaowu to be the leader of the 7 houses. Upon hearing Huo Yuhao's support for her to become the leader of the 7 houses, Xiaowu's eyebrows and eyes immediately curved. She happily said, "Are you really up to the point? From now on, I will be your Xiaowu sister. If anyone bullies you, I will make them look for teeth everywhere." Later, Xiaowu walked up to Huo Yuhao and said, "Hurry up and call Xiaowu sister." Huo Yuhao. "Call you little dance sister, do you think you make a lot of money? You're losing a lot." Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, "You're not bigger than me, I'm not shouting." He really can't speak out. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. You're too kind. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Your too kind Xiaowu didn't force Huo Yuhao to call Xiaowu sister. He looked at Wang Sheng and asked, "You look like an old student of the college. Can you introduce me to the situation of our college?" Wang Sheng immediately stood up. In this world, strength is paramount. Although Xiaowu is much smaller than him, his strength is much stronger. Wang Sheng is very convinced. Wang Sheng said, "There are a total of 6 grades in our college, with 1 class for each age. Boss, you, Huo Yuhao, and Tang San are all new students who have just entered the 1st grade this year. We are all students in the 3rd grade or above. I just entered the 6th grade this year. The college has classes in the morning and cultivates on its own in the afternoon. Generally, there are 2 classes in the morning, one on cultural knowledge and the other on martial soul. We engineering students all have some work in the afternoon, usually cleaning the college to earn some living expenses. The specific work arrangements are handled by dedicated teachers." Subsequently, Wang Sheng introduced himself and other working-class students. Other working-class students have average martial souls, but Wang Sheng's martial soul is relatively good. He is the War Tiger martial soul, and his soul power has reached level 9, making his combat power very good. Next, it's Tang San and Huo Yuhao's turn. Tang San thought for a moment and said, "My martial soul is blue-silver grass, with innate soul power." Except for Huo Yuhao and Xiaowu, everyone else was shocked and exclaimed, "Innate soul power." These days, there are extremely few soul masters with innate full soul power, and many title Douluo are not innate full soul power. Congenital soul power implies strong potential. After being shocked, Wang Sheng and others sympathized with Tang San, because innate full soul power can basically be cultivated to a very high level, except for blue-silver grass. Blue-silver grass is recognized as an abandoned martial soul. Huo Yuhao then said, "My martial soul is Ling Mao, with soul power at level 7. Upon hearing this, Wang Sheng said in confusion, "Is the spirit I martial soul the eye? What's the use of this?" Huo Yuhao rolled his eyes without arguing, and said directly, "It's useless. Just like blue-silver grass, one useless martial soul." Wang Sheng. Tang San. Xiaowu chuckled and said, "You're quite interesting." At this moment, a teacher in his 30s walked in and said, "Are there any new work students coming this year? Stand up for a moment." Huo Yuhao, Xiaowu, and Tang San took a step forward. This teacher has an ordinary appearance, with light green hair and a bed in his hand. He looked between Tang San and Huo Yuhao and asked, "Who is Tang San?" Tang San quickly said, "I am." The green-haired teacher said, "Tang San, this is the bedding that the master gave you." Tang San took the bedding and Huo Yuhao glanced beside him, thinking to himself that although this master may sometimes be more average, he is quite meticulous and knows how to prepare bedding for Tang San. Teacher Green-Hair said, "My name is Mo Chen, you can call me Teacher Mo." After a pause, Mo Chen continued, "Tang San, Huo Yuhao, and Xiaowu are new working-class students. You should be responsible for cleaning the garden south of the playground in the future, with a daily salary of 10 copper coins. Remember to clean every day, especially the clutter, and be sure to clean it carefully, otherwise your salary will be deducted. Of course, if you don't want to do this job and have other ways to make money, you can also tell me. Do you understand?" Huo Yuhao and the other 3 nodded at the same time. Huo Yuhao secretly calculated in his heart that 10 copper coins, or 1 silver coin, would earn a full income of 3 gold coins in a month. Is this job of cleaning the garden so profitable? If it weren't for him being able to set up a stall and sell grilled fish, this job would have to go ahead. Huo Yuhao spoke up and said, "Teacher, I have other ways to make money." Without further questioning, Mo Chen nodded and said, "Okay, then Tang San and Xiaowu will be responsible for cleaning the garden." Xiaowu curiously asked Huo Yuhao, "What is your way of making money? How much money can you earn?" Huo Yuhao shrugged his shoulders without answering. Roasted fish is not suitable for anyone else besides him. Huo Yuhao has sharp eyes and can grasp fire from a microscopic perspective, which others cannot do. Xiaowu saw that Huo Yuhao didn't say anything, so she pursed her lips and muttered softly, "If you don't say it, then don't say it. I'm not rare." Mo Chen chuckled lightly and said, "All right, the class will officially start the day after tomorrow. You can start cleaning work the day after tomorrow. I will check periodically and don't slack off." After speaking, Mo Chen turned around and left. Huo Yuhao saw Tang San holding a blanket in his hand and said, "I should also go buy a set of blankets, you." Cough, Xiaowu, you don't have a blanket either. What do you plan to do? Xiaowu only then noticed the issue with the bedding and said awkwardly, I don't have money." Huo Yuhao said nonchalantly, "Then I'll help you buy a set of bedding first. When you earn money from work, you can return the money to me." "Really? You're so good!" Xiaowu exclaimed happily. Huo Yuhao shook his head slightly. A child is just a child. Just now, who was curious about it? Now, it's just, "You're too kind, let's go." Huo Yuhao walked out of the 7th house. Xiaowu followed behind, bouncing and jumping. The two of them walked out of the dormitory, but Tang San didn't pay much attention. Tang San lay comfortably on the bed and murmured, "A little boy who pretended to be calm, a mischievous little girl. It's too childish, let them play on their own." As she walked out of the dormitory building, Xiaowu casually asked, "You are also a working-class student. Where did you get the money from?" Huo Yuhao calmly replied, "I earned it myself." Xiaowu exclaimed in surprise, "Will you still make money on your own? Tell me, if we have money, we can earn more together." Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, "Roast fish. You can't do this." "Roast fish?" Xiaowu tilted her head and thought for a moment. "I really don't know how to." "Forget it, I'll just clean the garden honestly. 10 copper coins a day is enough to spend." The two of them walked while talking. Xiaowu then asked, "Did you often fight with people before? You could have guessed that when I put my legs on your shoulders, I would pinch your neck. To be honest, you are quite impressive." Huo Yuhao turned his head and glanced at Xiaowu, thinking to himself, "I didn't guess it, I knew it all along, and I've been treated like this in my past life." Xiaowu seemed to suddenly think of something and murmured to herself, "Your performance today has shown me the weakness of my move. I need to find a way to make others unable to resist even if they don't get caught in my neck. By the way." Xiaowu's eyes suddenly lit up and she looked at Huo Yuhao. "If I tie a sandbag or an iron block to my calf and clamp someone's neck like this, who dares to resist?" Huo Yuhao. Good guy, you're killing people to the death. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Huo Yuhao, what are you doing? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Huo Yuhao, what are you doing? Huo Yuhao and Xiaowu chatted and laughed, then came to a store selling daily necessities outside the college. "Boss, we need to buy 2 beds of bedding." Huo Yuhao spoke up. "All right." The boss heard this and took out 2 beds of bedding, tied them with cloth strips, and handed them to Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao paid the money and walked out of the store with Xiaowu. A person walked back to the dormitory holding a bed of bedding. Xiaowu took her luggage to the bed next to Huo Yuhao and smiled as she said, "I'll sleep over here." Huo Yuhao immediately shook his head and said, "I suggest you stay next to Tang San." "Why?" Xiaowu said inexplicably. Tang San also sat up from the bed, poked his head out, with a slightly displeased expression. "He said he didn't want to dance next to him, why did he drag me in? Did I provoke you?" Tang San had a good impression of Huo Yuhao before, as this little boy was indeed quite handsome. However, after getting in touch with him, he realized that Huo Yuhao was quite annoying and always wanted to drag him into the water. Just now I wanted him to take action against Xiaowu, this little girl, and now I want to push Xiaowu to his side. What is N's intention? Tang San doesn't like this kind of person very much. Tang San said directly, don't get caught up in my affairs between you. After speaking, he turned his head and lay back. Huo Yuhao. Xiaowu saw Huo Yuhao not speaking and asked again, why don't I sleep next to you? Huo Yuhao couldn't explain, so he could only grit his head and say, no, I won't. You, just be happy. After saying that, Huo Yuhao looked at Tang San awkwardly and said to himself, father-in-law, can you awesome a chance? You are useless. Perhaps the heavens heard Huo Yuhao's voice, and Tang San suddenly turned his head to look at Huo Yuhao. Just as Huo Yuhao was pleasantly surprised to think that Tang San had changed his mind, he heard Tang San impatiently say, Huo Yuhao, why are you so engrossed? Living next to you is not living in your bed. What do you have to refuse? Besides, we are all children now, you don't need to think too much. Huo Yuhao. Take it. Xiaowu placed the bedding aside and said with a smile, do you think I would like to sleep next to you? It's next to the window and the air is better. Otherwise, I wouldn't sleep here. Quickly laying out the bedding, Xiaowu clapped her hands and said, done. Wang Xing saw the bedding that Huo Yuhao and Xiaowu had prepared and walked over, saying, boss, let's go to the cafeteria together for dinner. Okay. Xiaowu immediately agreed, but then she thought of something and asked, do we also have to spend money on food? Wang Xing. Which family doesn't spend money on meals? Xiaowu got the answer from Wang Xing's expression and couldn't help but look at Huo Yuhao, saying, Yuhao, I think. She awkwardly said, I want to borrow some more money. No problem, Huo Yuhao said happily, I'll lend you the meal money for the next few days, and repay me when you have money. Xiaowu sincerely said, thank you. Tang San looked at Huo Yuhao with a slightly relieved expression. Although the little boy was a bit annoying, he was indeed quite generous. A group of 11 people walked out of the dormitory together, led by Wang Xing, towards the cafeteria. The cafeteria is also located inside the teaching building, with a large space that can accommodate 6 classes of students and teachers, for a total of over 300 people to eat. The cafeteria is divided into 2 levels. The first level consists of ordinary food made from a large pot of rice. On the second floor, there are some boutique foods that are usually visited by wealthy students and teachers. At this point, a long queue had already formed at the cafeteria window on the first floor. As soon as I entered the cafeteria, a piercing voice came. Aren't these the poor guys like Wang Xing? Huo Yuhao looked in the direction where the sound came from and saw a group of senior students standing tall and looking down at them on the stairs from the first floor to the second floor. At this moment, a handsome male student, about 11 or 12 years old, said disdainfully, these poor people probably don't know what the second floor looks like. Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao couldn't help but furrow his brows. Why is this student so arrogant and rushing to find a fight? Xiaowu was very angry and said angrily, what are you, like your father on the second floor? The male student immediately became furious and was about to come down to play a small dance, but was stopped by someone next to him. This is the cafeteria. If anyone fights, they may be fired. The male student regained his composure and pointed at Xiaowu, saying, let's leave you guys today. Let me meet you again next time. I insist on hitting you and begging for mercy. After speaking, a group of people followed the stairs up to the second floor. Xiaowu was about to catch up, but Huo Yuhao grabbed Xiaowu and shook his head, saying, there's no need to catch up. You can't beat them all alone. 2 fists are difficult to defeat 4 hands, and Huo Yuhao cannot guarantee that he can defeat 2 people of the same level, let alone Xiaowu. Xiaowu angrily said, are we just letting them go like this? Huo Yuhao said calmly, if you damage the cafeteria, you need to compensate. You don't have the money. Upon hearing this, Xiaowu's expression immediately calmed down and she said, forget it. As he spoke, Huo Yuhao saw Tang San walking ahead and talking to someone. That person is exactly the master. The two of them said a few words, and the master went up to the second floor, while Tang San did not follow up. Wang Xing curiously said, "Tang San, do you still know the master?" Tang San nodded and said, "He is my teacher." Huo Yuhao raised his eyebrows slightly, and now Tang San has already become a disciple of the master. Although the previous master's second language did not leave a good impression on Huo Yuhao, he still felt that the master had some level of proficiency. Being able to teach Tang San to become a god, the master's level is actually quite good. Just Tang San's two martial souls, one is the Blue-Silver Emperor and the other is the Haotian Hammer, both of which are the highest level martial souls in the world. If Tang San's martial souls were only pure blue-silver grass, perhaps the Divine King would come and there would be no way for Tang San to become divine. However, the master said that there are no useless martial souls, only soul masters of useless objects. Isn't this hitting oneself in the face? The master is actually good, but a bit silly. Huo Yuhao secretly commented in his heart. As everyone queued up to cook, Huo Yuhao found that Tang San did not join the crowd in cooking, but silently took out the dry food he had brought. After thinking for a moment, Huo Yuhao walked up to Tang San and said with a smile, "Tang San, let's eat together. I'll treat you, and you can repay me when you have money." Tang San was slightly taken aback, then shook his head and said, "No need." After speaking, I walked further away. Huo Yuhao wanted to go over and persuade him a few more words, but Xiaowu pulled him away and said, "Huo Yuhao, what are you doing? Come here quickly." End of this chapter.